1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Brick by brick, stone by stone, tearing down these walls I call home. To these hard, cold and lonely days and nights without love. So musical instruments, especially guitars, have been a big part of my life for quite a while. I think I first learned to play guitar when I was 11. So after learning guitar, I began playing with friends and eventually formed a band and did my first gig when I was 14, mostly high school dances and things like that. I became a singer-songwriter and sending demo tapes off to England, and I got a publishing deal. I moved to London when I was 17. That was an exciting time, spent a year and a half there. Then I came back to Detroit and formed more bands, sent off tapes to other record companies, and I got a deal in New York. Moved to New York, where I lived for quite a long time. Played in some bands, did some recording, did a lot of gigs. It was a great way to spend my 20s and early 30s, and then I somehow transitioned into the museum business, but that's another story altogether. I've owned many guitars, and we're going to talk about a few of them in this video. This particular guitar is very special for several reasons. One, it was made for me by my older brother. It's also got a fiberglass back because in the late 1960s, a guy named Charlie Kaman designed this type of guitar, and my brother decided to make one for me. I didn't appreciate it fully at the time. I was into electric guitars and other things, and I soon moved off to New York and left this behind, kind of looking a gift horse in the mouth, I suppose. I visited my brother recently. He lives out in Washington State, and I was delighted that this guitar was up in his attic, and we brought it down, took some dust off of it, and now I cherish it, and I'm so grateful to have it. What I'm going to be doing is taking the strings off, cleaning it up really well, replacing one of the broken pegs, restringing it, and now, almost 50 years later, let's see what this thing can do. So the first thing I'm going to do is take the strings off, clean it, and put new strings on. So we start off by loosening the strings with the up here. And again, these strings are probably 40 years old, so they probably don't have a lot of tone left in them. But that's all right. Strings are easy to come by. And I've gotten some nice new strings for it. So you want to loosen these as much as possible. And then I'm going to take a pair of pliers, which I thought I had right here. I do have right here. A pair of pliers. I'm going to pull out the string pegs. And I'm missing a string peg. Must have disappeared into the attic, but that's okay. I have an extra one on that old Guild, which I don't have strung. So now, actually the easiest thing to do here, then C strings are useless, is to cut them. And pull them out of the holes in the body. And then take them off of the tuning pegs.
I've been dreaming of this moment, you've been dreaming of this moment too. At least I hope that you have, 'cause I've been dreaming.
My brother made, I think, 3 or 4 guitars. He's made a lot of things. He's made his own canoes to go adventuring in, all kinds of gizmos and innovations. But guitars was something he wanted to try, and he did, and I'm very, very proud now to have one of those in this very unique design. So the rest I can clean even after the strings are on. So now I get some strings here, and there's all different thicknesses that you can use. Now some people like to play with nylon strings. They're a lot softer to the touch, and on classical guitars that's what they use. But in most folk guitars and all electric guitars really, the strings are steel. And in these, the deeper tone strings are also wrapped in bronze wire, which gives them a nice soft tone. Three of my best friends that I've known since I was in my 20s, while I was playing in bands, they were working for bands. First as what you'd call roadies, carrying gear around. Two of them in England, one of them in America. And we all met up in New York and became good friends. And as I pursued a career as a singer-songwriter, they advanced their careers as technicians. And like I said, they worked for initially bands like the Talking Heads and Patti Smith, and eventually with bands like The Who and David Bowie and Paul McCartney and Rod Stewart and others. So they got to travel all around the world, working their way up from basically roadies and stagehands to guitar technicians. And they're the ones who would actually tune the guitars and take care of the guitars for like Ronnie Wood of the Rolling Stones and others right backstage as the guys were playing, and they'd break a string, and one of my friends would come running out with a fresh guitar and then quickly backstage restring the other guitar. Quite an exciting thing to be able to travel the world with these guys. Kind of a neat side of that was I got to learn from them who were the really nice people of the big artists and who were maybe not so nice. And it was surprising to hear how the different guys treated their crews. And I was happy to hear that David Bowie was probably one of the nicest guys in the way he treated the people who worked backstage. And they said he was just a genuinely wonderful person. Being a big David Bowie fan, I was happy to hear that. One of them did a tour with Ronnie Wood, who is one of the primary guitar players for the Rolling Stones. And Ronnie Wood's tour in England was sponsored by Guinness Beer. So they were supplied lots of Guinness during the tour, which everybody seemed happy enough with. I learned that some of the sponsors of these bands make a big difference in touring. One of the guys worked with was sponsored by Kentucky Fried Chicken, and as they traveled around the world, that's what they were fed at every single stop, is endless Kentucky Fried Chicken, until they finally got sick of it. But I don't think they got sick of the Guinness. So in putting the strings on, I'm not putting them on too tight to begin with. And then there's a process of stretching the strings, because the guitar will go right out of tune very quickly, because these strings have to be stretched a few times to get to where they're going to have the right tone. I'm just going to clip off some of these ends. Not really perfectly yet, but just to get the big ends out of the way.
As I stand here by the embankment, as the rain beats down, I think of what you said to me.
When you're playing at a recording, if you're working at a recording studio or on a stage, that road crew back there is working very fast if they're replacing a string to stretch those strings out, because if you don't stretch them out properly and you start playing, it'll be in tune, but then pretty soon it'll go right out of tune. So you need to make sure that your strings are stretched so that they'll hold the tune that you give them. All right, then when you finally want to tune your guitar, you find, and I've left it over here, let me go grab it. Now in the old days you'd use a thing that you'd blow in, or a little thing that made noise. Now they have these things that stick right on the neck, and just the vibration in the guitar will activate a beautiful little scale. So where you're tuning, your nice little tuning device up here, your electronic device, will get you into fine tune. A really quick way is just take a guitar that's already in tune and you match that. Then you go to the next string. All right, that's the first chord that's been played on this guitar in 48 years, I believe. Not perfectly tuned yet. These strings will continue to stretch out. In fact, now that I've got it tuned, I want to stretch them some more. It's hard to believe, but there's people who have an entire career of being guitar techs, taking care of the guitars, the mechanics of the body, the electronics of the pickups and electric guitars, the strings, the tension of the neck, if the neck is true. It's quite a thing. Inside it says, this instrument was made especially for Jerry Roberts by Ron Roberts. And I was in my 20s at the time, and he was 12 years older than me. And the fact that he was an old folk guitar enthusiast, that he made this guitar for his rock and roll younger brother. Very happy to have it back in my collection again, and I'll be playing some songs on it. So again, after about 48 years in an attic, we've got this thing, the old strings off of it, cleaned up, restrung. We'll get it back into tune, and it's really nice to have this thing back in playing condition after all this time, and I look forward to playing a song or two on it, maybe writing a new song or two on it. This is a guitar I probably wish I would have had with me all along, but as they say, better late than never. Thank you, Brother Ron. So my love affair with stringed instruments started when I was very young. My father played ukulele. Actually, he played banjo in a ragtime band back before World War II. But he and my mother ran a boys' camp, and he always played ukulele for the boys and sang camp songs. And I was lucky to inherit my dad's ukulele. But my older brothers and sisters all played folk music in the 1960s. Peter, Paul and Mary, Bob Dylan, that sort of thing. My first guitar was this one. It was actually black when I was given this, just a very basic black folk guitar. I painted the Union Jack on it because I was a Beatle fan. And so this is the guitar I learned to play on, and I've kept it all these years. When I was in high school, I was already in rock bands. In fact, I played my first gig on stage when I was 14 years old. This guitar I bought from the Detroit want ads, Detroit Free Press want ads back before the internet. I paid $150 for it, which seemed like a lot of money then. This is the 1966 Fender Telecaster. This has been with me on stage in the studio from England to New York. In New York, this guitar doesn't have any strings on it right now. It needs some work. I was with a publishing company that I'd signed with, and they invited me to start sorting through their old record collection of old people who wrote songs for them. And behind the file cabinets, I found a guitar, a microphone, and an amplifier. This was the guitar. It was a Guild. So this has been used by probably dozens, if not hundreds, of songwriters in New York to write some of the songs we've all heard. And in payment for sorting through the collection, I was given this guitar, and I wrote a real lot of songs on that. My wife, when we were dating, gave me this mandolin, which I never really mastered, but they're extraordinary instruments made famous to the pop culture in Rod Stewart's Maggie May. The intro was with a mandolin. On my wedding morning, my wife gave me this, This is a Martin. It's a beautiful guitar. It's my go-to guitar right now, and I play it probably every day. Great guitar. And then going back to the ukulele, which is tuned very differently than a guitar, and I never mastered it. But when I was trying to find on eBay a ukulele like my father's, I found this baritone ukulele, which is tuned exactly the same as a guitar. So if you take a guitar's top 4 strings, same as these. So anything you can play on a guitar, you can play on a ukulele. But a baritone ukulele, not like a Hawaiian one. I have several others, but these are my primary guitars, and they all have stories behind them, and I cherish them all. But we're now going to go back to talk about this, the guitar I got from my brother recently. All right, so we've tuned the guitar up. The strings have had a chance to settle a little bit. I will say the guitar probably is a little bit worse for wear for spending almost 50 years in an attic on the Puget Sound, but it's actually pretty good shape. I'm going to just play a little song here, a little tiny bit of a song. Although I spent a lot of my youth as a rock musician, I love sea music. We have a local pub where I live in Connecticut, and they get together there and sing sea shanties, which are work songs, and then other songs, ballads, sea music, which are the kind of songs that a sailor might sing around the bunk room or something.
So as the creek and Catapult, we built some privateers. But Captain Cook came up one night to burn them at the piers, singing, "Roll, boys, roll up the creek to Petitpont. Burn, boys, burn every ship and every log." So we sing, boys, sing to the fire and lost crawl. And the night they came to burn the privateers at Petitpont.
This is a song called Leaving of Liverpool. I heard it first when I was in Scotland a long time ago. It's about an English sailor sailing to California and already missing his true love. Fare thee well, the Prince's landing stage with a Mersey. Fare thee well, I am bound for California, a place I know right well. So fare thee well, my own true love. When I return united we will be. It's not the leaving of Liverpool that grieves me, but me darling when I think of you. I am bound on a Yankee, clear the ship by the way of the stormy Cape Horn, and I will write to you a letter, my love, when I am homeward bound. So fare thee well, my own true love. When I return united we will be. It's not the leaving of Liverpool that grieves me, but me darling when I think of you. My darling when I think of you. So that's it for now. I will be seeing you again, I hope. I'm not sure what I'm going to dig up next time around, but considering everything, it's still got some life left in it. And I look forward to telling you some more stories one of these days. Who knows what will arrive on my doorstep in a box, or what I'll discover in an antique shop, or maybe even my own collection of stuff. So we'll see you next time around. But meanwhile, hit that subscribe button and I'll try to make more videos. And we'll see you soon.